Transmitting from the Mojave Wilderness in Joshua Tree, California. Now is the time for Desert Oracle Radio, the voice of the desert.
Night has fallen on the desert. A great windstorm blew through the high desert, great cloud ships on the eastern horizon. All very exciting until that LA haze and grimy smog blew through the pass and up the grade. Ozone and all the rest. We're going to build a wall and we're going to make Los Angeles pay for it. When is spring in the high desert anyway? From about late January to early June, on and off, generally speaking. Sometimes it starts in October the year before, when the Joshua trees start blooming early. Sometimes you leave your coat in the car till summer solstice because the weather can play tricks. Until about August, when you'd be glad for some tricks like that. Something besides 100-degree plus days that last half the night. You might pay somebody good money to summon a monsoon rainstorm. There were Pentecostal preachers in that line of work, traveling rain wizards. The Indian tribes of the West had their own rain wizards, and some still do, doing the rain dance. There's a Tanya Tucker song about the former, the rain preacher. Personally, I would look at the 10-day forecast before paying any kind of rain bringer. I would, in fact, have my own personal weather station, the data shared with the Weather Underground network, which results in better weather coverage over rural areas that are notoriously low on National Weather Service stations, which tend to be just the kind of out-in-the-sticks places where the rain wizards usually plied their trade. Was it Tanya Tucker who sang that song? I'll have to ask the AI search engine later, which will immediately reply with some confidently wrong gibberish like, "You may be confusing the podcaster Tucker Carlson with the Tom Cruise movie Rain Man." I hope you all saw the Artemis mission's dramatic conclusion. I know we have a lot of spaceship fans who listen to the show out here in the desert. Artemis made a beautiful approach, and then the Orion capsule separated from the European service module, which was clearly named by a committee. One of Europe's hundreds and hundreds of committees meeting in grim modernist meeting rooms. And then that lovely European module sadly had a Viking funeral as it was intentionally burned up in the atmosphere, a fate that happily was not shared by the Integrity crew, who made a perfect splashdown, all 4 astronauts successfully retrieved, taken up by the helicopters. No one was eaten by sharks, just a tip-top mission. Splashdown occurred just a couple of hours' drive from the Mojave, just off the San Diego coastline. Watching the footage, it looked calmer out on the Pacific Ocean than in Yucca Valley. And it wasn't quite cold up here, but it was something close. So I got the fireplace going for the first time in a month or so. And all these big dumb mosquito hawks come flying out. Like, there aren't supposed to be fires after we come out. Just going haywire. And they're all half dead anyway, which is sort of their deal. They can barely fly, they only live a couple of days, maybe a week and all, and they don't even eat mosquitoes. They don't even eat. Or maybe they eat a little bit of flower nectar, if they come across it. Which they won't, of course, because they're on the bathroom wall just out of your reach. Waiting for the precise moment, maybe when you're flossing your teeth or something, to suddenly dart at your mouth before spastically flying into your hair. They are called by no one the crane fly. They are at worst a mild annoyance, which is more than can be said about most people. The mosquito hawk, or so-called crane fly, doesn't bite people or anything else except maybe ineptly licking a bit of nectar for the 30 seconds of its life when it's not in your car, inside the windshield for the remaining 2 days of its lifespan. They'll be gone soon. We had a very wet year in the desert, about one big storm a month going back to August or so. Prime conditions for the mass appearance of the hapless crane fly.
Desert Oracle Radio.
There's a 6.5 foot long double-sided scroll of computer code within each and every one of you. And because all of your cells, all 37 trillion of them or so per person, carry a copy of your operating system, your DNA, there's something like 37 billion kilometers of DNA code within you right now. But is always shedding. Sit down for dinner and you'll shed millions of DNA samples. Because we're constantly shedding our skin cells. And to a lesser degree, our hair. And everything we touch with our hands or mouth or other body part leaves behind our calling card. Many, many copies of that 6.5 foot long double-sided scroll of our entire human operating system, including our specific ancestry and lineage, and we don't really know the purpose of 98% of our DNA. For a while, it was dismissed as junk or code that did not do anything. In recent years, some of that information turns out to be coding for the genes themselves, along with carrying RNA instructions. One day, all that so-called junk DNA may tell us much more about our origins, the origin of our mysterious species, and all the other life on Earth. Life on Earth is everywhere. It explodes into existence even in the harshest conditions. Like the Mojave, the hottest and driest desert in America. Our bodies play host to billions of other forms of life too, from the fungus that causes dandruff to the beneficial bacteria in your gut. All of them carry their own great libraries of computer code. Instructions for the generation and growth and life and reproductive cycle of the complex animals that we are. And we're really only 3 decades into the study of this library of secrets. What will we know in another 30 years? This is Desert Oracle Radio, broadcasting from Joshua Tree on KCDZ 107.7 FM, with soundscapes by Red, Blue, Black, Silver.
One of the weirdest cattle mutilation stories in recent decades came from a kind of oddball ranching family that decided to go public with what was going on their Black Angus breeding farm that they had up in northeastern Utah, on the other side of the mountains from Salt Lake City. It's not the Utah we usually know if we're not from there. It's not the city and suburbs and sprawl and temple of Salt Lake. It's not all the beautiful national parks of southern Utah, Canyonlands, Arches, Zion, Bryce. It's mostly Native American reservation and BLM grazing land. A family moved there from northwestern New Mexico, near Dulce. They had Black Angus breeding bulls. That was their business. So some people are in the business of having cattle everywhere, feed on the brush and the grass, and clog up the freshwater streams, and get hit by semi-trucks and all the charming things cattle do. And then there are some people who drive around with a truck with prize bulls. And you can see me carefully scanning to see if the children are still here. I think the children can deal with this. Cattle have mommy and daddies. But daddy isn't always around, kind of like with people. In fact, daddy is often only there for about 10 minutes. And then he's put in the truck and taken to another ranch. This family was called the Sherman family. Now, I have people who have been working on this story, friends of mine, colleagues, comrades, and they always say, oh, don't say the Sherman family. It was in the newspaper as their name. They went public. They went to the Deseret paper, and they went to the Salt Lake City Tribune, and they told their story because it was extremely weird. They bought a ranch of about 540 acres. It sounds like a lot of land if you're like in Echo Park on a 200 square foot lot. But it's not big for a cattle ranch. The big cattle ranchos, the original ranchos after the missions were secularized by the Mexican government, the California missions, and then handed out as prizes to generals, colonels, and etc. Those would be in the tens of thousands of acres. The huge ranches where you could live your whole life and never see every part of it. So this was a fairly small ranch. They bought it, and the story, which George Knapp, the Las Vegas television reporter and writer on strange topics, covered in a book he wrote about this place, was published in the early 2000s. These people had a little trouble in New Mexico. And if you know New Mexico, you got to be pretty weird to have a little trouble in New Mexico. Because people will kind of let you do what you want. as long as it does not infringe on the lifestyle of the others. Well, they were kind of run out of town, which is kind of weird. They were run out of town. They moved up and bought on a mortgage this small ranch up in northeastern Utah. This scrubby, cold country. It's grim in winter. It's beautiful if you like that extreme high desert kind of thing. Juniper and pinyon and everything's frozen for 4 months of the year. And out here, we get very excited if it snows for a few minutes because it's something to see. So they went up there and they brought their prize Angus cattle, moved into this old homestead house. There were a couple other cabins for ranch hands on the property. Again, not that big. Mostly just some pasture, some creeks, not rivers really, just little creeks, a little bit of fresh water, and then a wall of mountains. The Indian reservation on the other side. They got there on their first day, the whole family, and they immediately began to have problems. They were getting the bulls out of these trailers and kind of introducing them to the area. So they put up some temporary metal fencing around. And they had some calves too, and the calves were over on the side. And everybody worked on the ranch, the kids too, so get this, close that, do this. So they're just kind of doing the busy work of figuring out where things go, what's going to happen. And they see something coming across the pasture. There's a black dog. As it approaches, they realize it's about as tall at the head as the kids, who were in middle school at the time. And instead of doing the kind of normal cowboy thing, which is start shooting, they were entranced. And the dog kind of came right up to them. And as it did, they realized it did not look like a dog. What it looked like was an immense black timber wolf. Ears straight up, that big mane over the shoulders. But it was friendly. It padded right up to him, and the next thing they knew, and when questioned later, they were all a little confused about this because it went against the regular way that you would deal with a threat, a potential predator. Remember, cattle ranchers pretty much exterminated all the American wolves in less than 100 years. It's kind of a shoot first, think about it later kind of thing. But they did not. And it wasn't because they were members of Greenpeace or anything. They were just entranced. And all of a sudden they realized this immense, monstrous black wolf is standing between them. They're standing around like this, and it's right between them. And they're petting it. The kids are petting it. Kind of talking about it. I wonder who owns this wolf dog. It must be a pet. And obviously tame. And once they were all off guard, it trotted over to the metal pipe fencing right over here where the calves were. And there was a calf right there. And the calf, as cattle will often do, they're curious creatures, had its head out between the bars and was looking at the people. What are you doing? Well, the giant black wolf trotted over and clamped its jaws on the calf's head. And the calf began wailing. And the adults began freaking out. The kids were crying. Finally, the instinct of the rancher snaps back into the brain. He runs over to his pickup, And he's got a big revolver, and he's got a rifle up on the rack, but he gets the big revolver because the thing's right there. And he goes over to it, and he hits it with the butt of the handgun, the big black wolf, and it doesn't do anything. So he shoots it in the head, and it looks over at him with a kind of angry look, and then turns its head back to the calf, who was bawling, crying. He then pushes the muzzle right up against the big black wolf's neck and shoots again, and sees a chunk of hair and flesh shoot up. Again, it looks at him, and then calmly, casually, releases the calf and meanders back into the pasture, where it disappears. That was day one. Over the next several months, they would find a number of bizarre things. On one occasion, about 3 weeks after this first one, a bunch of bulls that are fenced and ready to be put in the trailer to take out for breeding vanish. They're not there. It's daytime. They're in there. He goes back in the house, gets his coffee, whatever, says goodbye, comes out, they're not there. Now it's 500 plus acres. They're looking everywhere. They call the sheriff. And it's cattle rustling. Big crime in cattle country. Nothing. No evidence. No tire tracks coming up to the gate. Nothing. At the end of the day, when they've looked everywhere, there's an unused trailer on the other side that's locked shut. They take a peek in there, and all the bulls are smashed in there. Alive. Locked on the outside. It happened in minutes. Now, along with a lot of other weird stuff, lights in the sky, people seemingly walking onto the property even though all the gates from the road are locked, they went public. Because a newspaper reporter in Salt Lake was doing a story on weird things in this basin. Legends, rumors, tall tales, unsolved crimes, that kind of thing. Kind of thing you do for Halloween if you're a reporter. A billionaire in Las Vegas named Robert Bigelow saw the newspaper story and offered to buy the ranch, sight unseen. So he did. As escrow was going through, the billionaire studies the paranormal. We'll get to him later. He also builds space habitats for NASA now. We'll get to that later. By the end of this family's stay, they would no longer stay in their individual bedrooms in the ranch house. Disturbingly, the children had found the closets locked from the inside. Their last night, they were all on a single king mattress in the kitchen with the lights on because nobody else could sleep anywhere else. And I don't remember who the first one who woke up was, but when they woke up, there was blood all over the sheets. And it turned out that every one of them had a little cut, a scoop out of their thumb. Minor. Something that you could take care of with gauze and a couple of Band-Aids. It was like one little goodbye.
From Amboy to Zizix and across the Great Mojave Desert, you've been listening to Desert Oracle Radio. And you just heard one of our campfire stories. That one was about Skinwalker Ranch. As we mentioned last time, it's time to do campfire stories again. 3 nights in Joshua Tree, Saturdays at sundown. May 2nd, May 16th, May 23rd at our secret campfire circle behind the Joshua Tree Retreat Center. Go to desertoracle.com for tickets. The link's on top of the page, or you can click events, however you want to do it. Looks like the last 2, the final 2 Saturdays are already sold out. The other one's getting close. I keep these pretty small because the more people, the more trouble. So these won't be 300-seat theaters like the shows in Los Angeles and other such 2 big events. So these are less than 100 people in all, including the campfire storyteller, whoever he is, and a couple of Desert Oracle security brutes we bring in for such events to keep things together. Sometimes a hippie will show up jabbering about seeing God behind the visitor center porta potties. Our good friend Herb Benham IV will be playing some campfire cowboy songs that get us into the mood as the sunlight fades and the desert gets real dark. And he will be playing at the Red Dog Saloon in Pioneer Town this coming Friday, April 24. I think I'm going to go down there too. We'll see what happens. If you go through the Desert Oracle Radio archives, you will find many more recordings of our campfire stories. They make for good listening on a mild night around the fire. Who knows what's out there in the dark? And check out last week's Up Close show on Z107. You can find the podcast online. I did the whole hour in the studio, and it was a lot of fun. Thanks for listening, and good night from the voice of the desert.
And you might think, well, what kind of people would keep track of that if they're not in the cattle industry? Well, there's a few of us. Not too many. But thankfully, a few of us keep tabs on the situation. I got interested in it when I was an agriculture reporter for a newspaper in rural California many decades ago. And I thought, well, this is a little more interesting than the Farm Bureau meeting. What's happening here? And if you know cattle ranchers, it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, cattle ranchers by nature are just kind of quiet. They're not prone to wild stories.